Back to advancing with watercolor, and today we're going to talk primarily about brushwork and some of the things that we can do with the brush in a picture I call shadow play. This painting is based on a recent trip to Paris where of course you have the chance to visit and pass by many cafes with awnings and people sitting outside enjoying a sunny day. This is the painting that came out of that small walk. I walked up to Montmartre, and on my way down I was looking for a subject. I had some time to paint, and I found a cafe that was on a quiet boulevard and plenty of shade. In fact, that became sort of the subject of this painting. The cafe is the object, but the real essence of the painting is in the shadows. And I found that this was an opportunity to work very dynamically with as much energy as I could muster with my brushwork. And this is a photograph of the scene. You can see we have some beautiful awnings. We have a lot of people outside enjoying the day. The sun is shining, and there's beautiful dappled light across the building, across the foreground. So when I was there, I did a small black and white study, and this is that study that I was using basically three values to give the impression of dappled sunlight, a distant cafe, a main cafe, and I was trying to focus on the figures in the foreground, leaving the white of the paper along those figures, their shoulders, and showing the vests of the waiters. On the left side, I have some figures in a darker tone, so I'm juxtaposing lights and darks under the awning. But I want to show you how I like to use the brush. If you notice, I'm working with the brush from the back. I hold the brush towards the very end. This allows me to use my full arm when I'm making any sort of stroke. In this case, I'm painting simple tones, but I'm still using the back of the brush. I've just gotten used to that and find it a more expressive posture, if I can say that. I have more control. I'm able to quickly maneuver the brush to go between the side of the brush and the tip of the brush by holding it at the back like this. When I need something really definitive, a small mark, this is the time I'll put my hand lower on the brush and use the tip. But most of the time I'm driving the brush from the back. And it also allows me to use a larger muscle group, which athletes, musicians, people who work with physical activity, they'll tell you if you can use a larger muscle group, you'll have more accuracy and you'll have more power. So I'm painting really the essence of the subject right now with a strong mixture of ultramarine blue and a bit of alizarin crimson, trying to be as calligraphic and as sure-handed as I can. I am improvising for the most part. In other words, I've kind of put the photograph away after making the drawing and want to just freewheel it with the shadows, create as much fun and evocative nature as I can, going between the side of the brush and the tip of the brush, trying to create some strong obliques and trying to give a feeling of the shadows falling across multiple surfaces, vertical surface of the buildings, the perpendicular surfaces of the awnings, and the flat surface of the street. So it's getting quite wild, and you may think, oh, the painting is lost. How can he possibly salvage this? It just looks like utter chaos. And yes, this is exactly what I wanted. I know that this is going to dry a bit lighter, and I know that I've reserved some stronger darks for working under the awning, and I'll be able to stabilize those shadows by painting through the dark of the underside of the awning and on top of the shadows to create a transparency. All the while trying to evoke a simple, if I can say simple, because the result is complex, but my idea is to just make the stroke and move on. I'm not trying to polish it at this point, or at any point really. I'm trying to be picking up on the essence of the nature of shadows, the way they fall across surfaces, and also I'm definitely having fun. And I believe that always shows in the painting if the artist is pushing themselves, having fun, or if they're caught up in drudgery, that shows too. So here the painting is dried off, the shadows now are dry, the paper's a little flatter, and I'm working with a smaller brush, starting to build up the deep tones underneath the shadows, underneath the awnings. I'm using neutral tint and a bit of ultramarine blue and a bit of alizarin crimson in this dark. It's quite dark. Even though I'm working small, look at how I'm holding the brush. Well, here I'm holding it by the tip. I need a head there, a table there, so I need some precision. But just moments ago, even though I'm using the small brush, holding it towards the back as I move through these smaller areas. So that's one suggestion I can make is as you're practicing your brushwork, as you're trying to do something similar, if you like a spontaneous quality to your watercolors or oil painting or acrylics, whatever you're using, try holding the brush by the back, try swinging your arms. Standing and painting is much easier to do that than sitting down. So I'm always standing at my easel, I'm always standing at my table to paint. For this very reason, I find that I can really move the brush with more energy, and that energy translates directly into the painting and creates its own energy. These strokes that you see, why they represent shadows, also are creating a kind of kinetic energy in the painting that directly affects the audience. So it's definitely something that I try to promote in my painting and take advantage of when I'm doing paintings of this nature where I have an opportunity. And these shadows really spoke to me. They presented an opportunity I felt, to really play with the brushwork. And I had it in my mind's eye as I was placing those strokes, a certain rhythm, a certain angle, a certain pressure or lack of pressure on the brush as I was making them. So I was very conscious of what I was doing with the brush. And this is one of the elements of painting that I find most inspiring to me. I love to see brushwork in painting. Some of my favorite artwork are the Chinese sumi paintings, Japanese sumi paintings, Korean paintings where they're exploiting brushwork in the form of either calligraphy or doing paintings of mystical scenes or nature scenes, or especially when they're painting trees. The brushwork is just fascinating, how they can generate a variety of strokes, tension within one stroke. You can really read the artist's intention or mind or spirit in looking at these paintings. And I want the same thing to happen when someone sees this painting. I want them to feel the same exuberance, and I want them to feel the same dazzle that I felt in standing in front of this motif. And I want them to walk away saying, wow, that was a pretty powerful display of brushwork in this painting. So you really have to kind of throw caution to the wind and trust that what you're doing is going to work out, because that early stage it would be easy to maybe put the painting aside and say, this one isn't working out, we tried, but just not going to happen. Anyway, continuing to use a dry brush on the back building, create some windows, some more shadow work. Though the background is very simple, just a little sunlight on the building, some shadows under the balconies, windows, a shape that suggests an awning. Very, very simple, but its simplicity is its strength. I feel that simple expression allows for there to be more feeling in the foreground. The corner felt a little empty. I wanted to put some leaves up here to kind of close that upper left corner off so that the eye kind of remains below. Doing it in a natural way. There were trees planted right by this cafe, so putting a branch in was completely in tune with what the scene was presenting. Another opportunity to use a different kind of brushwork, a kind of splatter with a little accents here and there suggesting leaves. So I find that this sort of painting, watercolor painting, is most rewarding to me. In fact, I have to, cringe a little bit when I see some of the artists who just over-polish their brushwork and hide their brushwork all the time. I don't feel any of the artist's spirit coming out from these paintings. Putting on some final touches, I'll probably use a bit of jaune brilliant, which is a color made by Holbein. It matches the yellow ochre almost exactly, so if I lose an edge or a hat or a head, I can replace it. I can put it back with a small touch of jaune brilliant. Well, here's the final piece, and it's dried very close to the way it went on. That meant that I was using pretty rich colors. Happy with the light, happy with the dappled shadows, and most of all, I feel very satisfied in the brushwork.